Oh, hi, I just looked up and here you are. You're there, I'm here. It's 8:01 on the East Coast here. I'm your host, BKP. Don't take advantage of my good mood. Don't do it. I asked Josh, I've asked Sam this morning. Nothing bothers me more when people see I'm in a good mood, they try to take advantage of it. Because it could turn quick, very quick. Anyhow, I'm in a good mood, but I'm like Lindsey Graham. I've never been so pissed off. Oh, I shouldn't say that. But Lindsey Graham said it. He's a senator. High integrity. I could say it too. Anyhow, I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from beautiful LJ, North Georgia here. Broadcasting live from the FYNTV Tower, 14th floor. I don't know. I used to be on the 11th floor. They moved me up a couple. If you'd like to contact the show, 706-889-9700, chief@fetyournews.com. Send me those nasty messages direct. Josh has been going on YouTube and checking out all the nasties. You know, we love it. All right? Send them to me direct. There's chief@fetyournews.com. I mean, he was telling me about, and then he clicks through to check out their page. He clicks through to check out their page. And hold on, let me answer this message. Very good. It's very good. Let me see something here. I'm going to try to get somebody to call in this morning to talk about the Brian Kemp voter suppression, okay, at 8:15, or an alleged voter suppression, okay, alleged. Okay, so I'm trying to get somebody to call in this morning, not Brian Kemp, but somebody else, to call in. They said yes. Let me do this. Hold on. I'm going to let them call this number and see if they're good, okay? And we're going to go straight to them this morning. Okay, we're going to go straight to them this morning. Let's see what this says. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure, folks, just one more time. All right. Josh, let's take a 2-minute break so I can give you some, a 30-second break. I'm sorry. The voter suppression story, put up one of the Stacey Abrams pictures. I don't care, okay? The voter suppression story is very big in Georgia right now. And we want to get somebody right there. It was this morning. It just took place, so we want to give it to you. We got somebody calling in to talk about it. So give me just 30 seconds. Don't go nowhere. I know this sounds strange. Don't go nowhere. Give me 30 seconds, all right? All right, sorry about that, folks. I hope you're still here, but Martha Zoller is going to be calling in at 8:15. I want to talk about voter suppression, and I want to get her take on it from the Brian Kemp campaign. She formerly working with Senator David Perdue. Many know her as a radio talk show host for several years. But Martha Zoller is going to be calling in just a couple minutes, and we're going to go to card and back to her, so do not leave, okay? Now, and the reason I want to do this is because if you can call around or send around now to get people to tune in, because we have to do something now to try to combat everybody. I'm sounding the alarm. I have sounded the alarm every day here, but this is truly sounding the alarm, okay? We have 3 articles this morning. Not one article discusses protecting the integrity of the vote in the state of Georgia. Not one, okay? We have an article here from the Associated Press, October 9th, 2018. Voter rights become flashpoint in Georgia governor's election. So timing is everything. They keep timing these things. You know, the Democrats are a time release capsule, okay? You know, they didn't talk about this voter suppression, or they did, but it wasn't national news until other things got out of the way. It is so sad that the media holds things until something else gets out of the way, okay? Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create such a negative for Brian Kemp. They don't want President Trump to come here. Anyhow, Yahoo News from the Associated Press, they put it right up there. Voter rights become a flashpoint in Georgia's governor race. Okay, and then none other than the AJC. The AJC, 53,000 Georgia voter registration applications stalled ahead of election, okay? More than 53,000. Now, let me go with this morning. Let's just run through this, okay? I have told you in the Georgia governor's race, they're saying this morning that, let's go to, I think number, is it 36? So have you been able to get them in? I put these on Josh late in the show, okay? I put them late in the show because Stacey Abrams, Democrat candidate. I'm going to say it because the articles say it, because they want to put that in. Black female Democrat candidate for governor of Georgia, Stacey Abrams, just appeared on Morning Joe. And I waited to set up the show because I wanted to watch this interview at 7:45 this morning or 7:30 this morning with Morning Joe. And this is a poll they put up, NBC News Survey Monkey, Georgia race 43-43, okay? Now, let's go to number 43-43. Give me number, and there's a lot, I'm going to go through these a little later. But give me number, okay, give me number 34. You have 34? So here is Gumby. I call him Gumby, Morning Joe Scarborough. Okay. Critics charge Georgia GOP governor candidate Brian Kemp purging voters before election. So they get Stacey Abrams on there, and Stacey Abrams is talking about, now here is the quote that scared the daylights out of me, all right? We have enough registered voters to win this election. There was not one time during this interview, okay? Not one time during this interview did they talk about the integrity of the vote, protecting your vote. Exact match. You're going to hear exact match all day long. And the Democrats are going to hide behind a hyphen, okay? A hyphen or a spelling that's incorrect. Georgia has what they call an exact match system, all right? If it does not exactly match up to the identification that you're going to use to be a voter or whatever, they kick it back or they hold it. See, Georgia actually goes through and checks your registration. Now, is it a coincidence that the big news today in Georgia is exact match, and out of the 53,000 votes, voter registrations that are on hold, are 73% black registrations? Now, we don't know how many college kids have been sent in to strong black areas where the church bus may be taking them to vote on that Sunday, and registered people. We don't know how many are accurate, valid, But the claim is 70% black registered voters. Remember Hillary Clinton's campaign, all right? Now, we're going to talk about it in a minute. You're all talking about Eric Holder saying when they go low, we kick them. We're going to play that video in a minute, okay? Now, but all of us remember kids getting paid to fill out voter registration forms and turn them in for money. Paid people to go register voters, okay? We all remember that those people would go and throw the registered Republican voters away. We have colleges everywhere and doing anything they can to register voters, whether they're out of state or not. I mean, you can get mad if you want. Now, what happens is on the exact match so many times, you know, you go up there and you move. And you get your driver's license renewed and you don't change your address. Thousands of people are driving around Georgia with inaccurate addresses on their driver's license. And when they go to vote or when they register to vote, their new address does not match up with the driver's license. So if you did not change your driver's license, if you're driving around somewhere in South Georgia and you move 3 times a year and you did not change your driver's license and your address on your driver's license, and you go to fill out a voter registration and it goes to exact match, it doesn't match up, it gets kicked back and says, hey, that's not where you live. I'm going to have Martha Zoller. I have to give her credit. You need to know we're going to take when she calls in, we're going to take not even a 15-second break. And we're going to bring her right on with us. All right. And, you know, so don't go away. We're not going to commercial. Monday night. Okay. This is another thing Stacey Abrams said. Suppress and scare. Okay. Suppress and scare is what she claims Brian Kemp is trying to do. Now, the other night I told you about Monday, I went to a meeting, all right? I went to a meeting by who else? Common Cause. I went to a meeting held by Common Cause of Georgia. Common Cause is the organization that tried to get Kemp to resign as Secretary of State. That was all a layout, resign as Secretary of State because they felt it was, you know, wrong for him to run for governor and be Secretary of State and oversee the elections in a time where he's running for the governor's office. I went the other night, Monday night. I have so much information here. I knew this was coming. I absolutely knew this was coming. Okay. When she calls in, we're going to take like 15 seconds just for me to check. We're going to talk to Martha. You're going to want to hear this because I guarantee she has better information and she understands more of what we're talking about this morning than maybe anybody in the state. I hope I don't catch her off guard. But this is election protection, okay? Gerrymander consequences. This major problem. I think I just heard the phone ring. So give me a minute. Let's make sure our guest is ready. All right. Get back in 15 seconds, folks. Joining us now is Martha Zoller from the Kemp Campaign, Director of Outreach. Good morning, Martha. How are you?
Morning, Brian. Great to be with you.
Sorry to bother you so early, but I already know well enough this is not early for you, but sorry to bother you. I just wanted to reach out immediately to somebody in the campaign, and I felt I could get in touch with you ASAP. I just watched Stacey Abrams on Morning Joe discussing voter suppression, which we have the big story going around Georgia today about 53,000 supposedly voter registrations on held with this exact match. And I wanted to talk to somebody about it that can explain what's going on better than I can.
Well, first of all, she's wrong, okay? All 53,000 of those folks that were registered to vote that had problems with the matching different than when you buy your driver's license name has got to match the name that's on the ticket. The same thing with voting. There was a federal law that was put in place in 2007 that Georgia passed law to be.
Martha, you're breaking up bad. If you're on your cell phone, you're breaking up bad. Try that again.
Is this better?
That's better. Stay
okay,
there.
Great. Sorry. I'll stay there. Anyway, what happened was those 53,000 people will be able to vote. Their names must match, though, their DMV record. That's what the federal ID law says that was passed in 2007 by the Congress and then was complied with by the Georgia State Legislature. So these 53,000 people can vote, but they'll have to bring an ID. Stacey Abrams, what she won't tell you is that her new voter project will not use the online voting where you could match things up with the DMV record and make it very easy for these folks. She wants to use paper registration, which, as you know, many times have inaccuracies on them. And you have to know that the person who's voting is the person that they are supposed to be. And that has been upheld by the courts. Everybody has said that there is no problem. And really, Brian, minority voting is higher than it has ever been in Georgia in the last 3 or 4 elections. Minority registration is higher than it's ever been. Brian Kemp is not suppressing anybody's vote.
Well, you know, there's a much different process with the paper registration. With the paper registration, there's a much different process of validating those than the online. If you go online and register to vote, if these 53,000 people went online and registered, they would immediately know there was a problem in the exact match. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Right. So the paper ballots, and I do know right here in our little county here, if you go to the voters registrar's office, they will actually ask you to go online to make sure it's done and complete. But now in these, explain one more time, because that's what I was talking about before you came on, and it's kind of upsetting because she went on Morning Joe and she says this morning, and I watched the interview at 7:45, and she said, we Republicans, conservatives, or Brian Kemp's campaign, suppress and scare the voters. And there will be a court battle. Has Kemp's campaign released something on this or talked about this yet, responded?
Yes, they have. And there's a press release that's going out this morning. There's also a fact sheet that I'd be happy to send you, that I'll send you as soon as we get off of this call, so that you'll have all the facts about it. But, you know, they've just done another case of bad reporting. I don't want to call it fake news, but what I want to call it is reporters that don't understand. They don't take the time to find out how things work. I bet she didn't say that those 53,000 people can show up anytime in the next 26 months from the time that they registered and verify their registration in Election Day. All they have to do is show up on Election Day or on an early voting day with the proper ID, and they could sort this out and it would be fixed. No one's going to keep them from voting. It is just we've got to match their actual name, their legal name, with their registration to vote. And the courts repeatedly have said there is no problem with that, and that is not a suppression of voting.
Well, I know the Associated Press, and it's run like fire, and My opinion is the national media is trying to come into Georgia and be what help they can to Stacey Abrams by carrying the water, especially on MSNBC. I don't care to say it. I'll leave you out of it. The fake media there on MSNBC, which
I think Brian, the other thing is that all you got to do is look at the numbers. Look at turnout numbers. Demographically over the time that Brian Kemp has been Secretary of State, there's been no suppression of vote, and it's been easier to vote, easier to register, and easier to change your registration because, as you know, living where you live, you've got a lot of people that have moved into your area over the last 10 years. It's easier than ever to change your registration. She just doesn't want to do it the easy way. She wants to have a bunch of paper ballots, a bunch of paper registration that people fill out inaccurately, and then she can have something to complain about.
Well, when people move, they're supposed to, by law, I think they have 30 days, supposedly by law, even within the state, to change the address on your driver's license. Your driver's license is supposed to reflect where you live. And all too many times, in some areas, people sometimes are forced to move 3 times a year, And if that's what happens, that's what happens. But they don't change their driver's license. They leave it alone until it runs out. It's no big deal. Why waste the time? And then it does not match up the registration that they've sent in, period. Am I right or wrong?
That's correct. You're right. You're right.
Well, I had to hear somebody talk about a hyphen. The reason, Martha, I got so frustrated, the reason between her and Joe Scarborough this morning, her reasoning was people send in and the Secretary of State misses a hyphen in the name. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. We got to clear this up. I got to get somebody on the line. And that was you, and I appreciate you very much. One more thing, Martha, because the other night, Monday night, I went to a meeting. I have to admit this on air, but I go to see what I call it the enemy. Anybody else can say whatever they want. I'm not asking you, but I always say I have to be in touch with what the other side is doing. And I went to a Common Cause meeting. And, the lady at the Common Cause meeting that put the presentation on, I knew this Monday night that this was coming out, the voter suppression, because Common Cause, this is the same organization that went after Brian Kemp and tried to get him to resign as Secretary of State, claiming conflict of him being Secretary of State and overseeing elections. So we knew this was not over, and we knew they had another plan, correct?
That's absolutely right. And just on that note, elections are managed, and in some of the reporting they've actually gotten this right. Elections are managed locally. But the Secretary of State collects all the votes and certifies them, but he doesn't count the votes. The Secretary of State does not count the votes. Each individual precinct counts the votes, and then it goes into the county. So there's a structure at the precinct level. There's a structure at the county level. There's a structure at the state level. And that's why you can't fix these elections, okay, because there is a lot of checks and balances along the way. It's the same thing as the reason why you can't really hack a U.S. election, okay, because of the fact you've got all the way down to the precinct level to the national level. And I guess maybe it would be possible, but you'd have so many pieces that you'd have to intervene in that it would be very difficult. And I think the founders were brilliant by putting it together that way.
As director of organization for the campaign, before we go, let me switch gears. What exactly are you doing throughout the state right now in the campaign, and what do you guys have happening?
Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of Brian. As you can imagine, he's very busy, so I'm speaking on behalf of him when he can't be there. I'm also working with coalitions like Women for Kemp and our outreach, and we're basically dialing and door knocking and getting the vote out at this point in time. There's going to be 2 new ads coming out for Brian that I think you're going to love because they talk about what he's going to do for Georgia in his own words, as opposed to just attacking somebody else. And I think you can see kind of where things are going by who's attacking and who's talking about the future.
Republican Coalition for Women for Brian Kemp. Why have you? I didn't give you a time limit, but I know you're busy. You got a busy schedule. But one more thing. Let's back up just a couple days as Coalition for Brian Kemp Women. The Brett Kavanaugh, how is that? How do you see women receiving that? Has it shifted left? Has it shifted right? Do you see votes going Stacey Abrams' way, or or into the Kemp column? What do you see there?
We're actually seeing it move more to the right. I mean, even among independents and females that are independent as well as undeclared. I think most people looked at that and saw that it was a terrible thing, and really in the long run, Senator Feinstein is going to have to answer for the fact that she could have included Senator Grassley from the beginning, and they could have looked at this privately. I really think, and I think a lot of women agree with me, is that not only was Brett Kavanaugh treated terribly, but Christine Blasey Ford was treated terribly also, and that she, she seemed to not know that she could have done this in private. And maybe she was acting, I don't know. I've never met the woman before, but she seemed to me to not know that she could have done this in a private way and not in a public way. And really, in the long run, Dianne Feinstein's going to have to answer for that.
Yeah, I thought watching every single minute of it, didn't miss a minute, I thought, Dr. Ford, you just learned that these people hung you out to dry in front of the American people, where you could have, you could have told your story and not been, as put on the stand in front of America behind closed doors in a more comfortable atmosphere. I thought that was just amazing to treat somebody that bad, regardless of how I feel personally about the whole situation with this, nomination and how the system worked there for Brett Kavanaugh, the hearings. I thought that was just despicable to treat that lady that way when she could have done this behind closed doors in a very comfortable setting. So I agree. Well, Martha, I thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I'll wait for the press release from Kemp. And I just wanted to get in touch with somebody. I was so aggravated this morning watching the national media trying to help carry the water for Stacey Abrams here in Georgia with voter suppression. And not one word in the interview. Later today you might hear about it. But not one word, Martha, in the interview about protecting the vote. Never about protecting the vote when it comes to Democrats.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'll send that to you right away. Thank you.
You have a nice day. Now, that's Martha Zoller, Director of Outreach for the Brian Kemp Campaign. And the reason I went immediately, folks, is because for the next every day until this election takes place, I will preempt the show whenever I have to stay focused on what's important. Yes, it is important to talk about Rod Rosenstein is canceling his Rod Rosenstein is canceling his hearing up at the House or whatever, his appearance. It's important to talk about the UN. There's so many things that's important, but I will preempt the show for right now all the way to election. And then if I have to come online and do special clips, no matter what time it is, during the day, we'll do what we have to do. And this morning put Gumby and Stacey Abrams back up. Morning Joe, we're going to go more into this afterwards. I don't know what number, 34 I think it is. There it is. I told you, I'm not going to spend the next 26 days or whatever doing I told you so. But I knew this was a national race early on. All right? And I waited. When they said 6 a.m. that they were going to have Stacey Abrams, I said I didn't care. I wasn't going to miss it. Not one word about protecting our vote. This is getting... Now, the interesting thing, I'll tell you how the lying, fake media, right after this, I'm going to tell you how they led up to this interview. They're misleading the American people, the voters of Georgia. This is disgusting what MSNBC can do under the umbrella of the First Amendment freedom of speech. Okay, so I'm not going to... Let's take a break. I'll be back. I'm your host, BKP. We're going to stay on this. And I told you Monday, I went to these meetings with Common Cause. If you're retired, I say it like that. If you're retired... if you've got 30 minutes a day in this busy world, you have to be on the phones. You can call the Kemp Campaign and you can get on a phone bank right at your house. Okay? In fact, we'll help you figure it out. If you want to call me, 706-889-9700, We'll help you figure it out. If you got an hour a day that you can slice out, I know it's a busy time, but you will not know. You just are not. How do I put this? I'm not upset with you, the viewers, but to get you to be very clear on what the ramifications of Stacey Abrams being governor of Georgia is for America. America. That's right. We'll take a break. I'll be right back.